In this video, we're going to look at two additional theorems to help us prove that triangles are congruent. And these are angle side angle and angle angle side. So for the first one, angle side angle, what we would have to know is that we have two congruent angles, two congruent sides, and then another pair of congruent angles. But for this one, what's really important is that the side is in between the two angles that is congruent, and that is angle side angle, and that would look like this. For angle side angle, it's similar but slightly different, so we're going to point out how that is different. So first we would have two congruent angles, then another pair of congruent angles, and this time the sides that are congruent, or the side that is congruent, is not in between the two angles. So when that occurs, we can still prove that they're congruent, but this time it would be angle angle side and not angle side angle. So in this example, we're going to look at how we can combine those ideas with some other definitions, theorems, or postulates that we know to prove that two triangles are congruent. So what we have here is an example where we know two lines are congruent, and we also know that these two lines are parallel, so that's given right here. Now, since these two lines are parallel, we actually also know that these angles are congruent and these angles are congruent because of something that we've talked about in a previous section, the alternate interior angle theorem. The alternate interior angle theorem says that two angles on the opposite sides of the transversal, if they're both inside of the parallel lines, are congruent. So again, using the alternate interior angle theorem, we now have two pairs of congruent angles. Now, this side that we were already given, the side that we know is congruent, is in between the two angles. So for this example, we have angle side angle, proving that the two triangles are congruent. So in this example, it's the same idea here to begin with, but notice the location of the congruent sides we were given is a little different. So in this example, once we again use that alternate interior angle theorem to prove that these two pairs of angles are congruent, now the side that is congruent is not between. So this would be between the two congruent angles. This one is not. So in this case, we can still prove that they're congruent, but now we're using the angle angle side theorem instead of the angle side angle theorem. So these two are very similar. They both involve two angles and one side. The difference is just where the side is located. Kind of given away in just the names. So for angle side angle, again, the side is between the two angles, and angle angle side, the side is not between the two angles. And the direction of the letters and the order of the letters tells us that information.